Hello, and thanks for joining us for episode 12 of the Edinburgh Northern Cockerel cast. Should be another good one, Michael.
Yeah, totally agree. I really enjoyed the McCanns actually at the weekend, so they were fantastic. It's a great pleasure to actually have our guest, today's guest on this evening, as he's both a current player and committee member. A man who by day masters the dark arts of the legal profession and banking. He can be found at weekends and 2 nights a week very sweatily packing down in Northern's front row. Yet another tartan Englishman. He's very well travelled, as you can guess from the tribal art on his wall. Although don't ask him to tell you about it because he might take an hour to get his opening sentence in order. Perhaps the reason he chose not to pursue a career in court law or public speaking. The only man I've ever met who's allergic to grass, but absolutely thrives rolling around in it on a Saturday, we welcome Giacomo Man of the Year 2017, Mr. Thomas the Tank Horton. Hi Tom, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys getting on?
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thanks for that kind introduction.
It's a pleasure.
Dragged it out a wee bit, Michael. So, what have you got to drink with us then, Tom?
So I have, because I've been missing the bunker so much, I think I'm same as a few of the guys in the Cockerel cast. I've gone for a Caesar Augustus, just to remind me of the bunker and of all the nights we're missing out. So yeah, it's tiding me over.
Well done. I've got a Brewdog Lost Lager, and Michael.
I actually have the very rare, if you can see it on the camera, a draft pint of Budvar from Cloisters. So as you can see, I've not attacked it today. That was from yesterday. But yeah, so a actual pint of draft poured beer. So that's what I've got.
Has it still got its fizz?
Yeah, relatively. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
Because I made the mistake of a few weeks into lockdown buying one of those 5-litre kegs, and it lost its fizz very quickly.
Having just had a sip, I can confirm it is not as fizzy as it was yesterday. So, which is a bit grim. So we'll open with an easy question for you, Tom.
Sure.
How many pairs of glasses do you reckon you've lost in and around the bunker in your time at Edinburgh Northern?
That would be 2, but then also I managed to lose another one in a nightclub in London on a stag do. So total 3 glasses that have been lost on nights out. Not a proud record, but anyway, here we are.
Excellent.
So Tom, talk us through your lockdown situation and how you're managing with that.
Yeah, it's been different. I think it's been difficult for everyone, hasn't it? But yeah, it was a bit strange for me actually because I actually moved jobs in the middle of lockdown, which was if I had my time over again, I'm not sure I'd do that again. But unbeknownst to me in January when I handed in my notice, there would be a global pandemic hitting mid-March. So I finished my previous job on the Thursday before lockdown. And then had 2 weeks off where I was expecting to go, well, here, there, everywhere, a few weddings lined up and things, but was obviously confined to my flat. So I think the furthest I went was in Inverleith Park. But started the new job at the beginning of April. So yeah, it's all been from home. So I've not met any of my colleagues, just morning, daily morning catch-up calls and things with them. But the only person I've met that I've actually met face to face is my boss in the interview, but I haven't met any of the rest of my colleagues. So a little bit strange, but yeah, it's going well so far. Anyway, can't really complain.
Fantastic. And obviously, you were alluding to is just when we started the call, you've got a new flatmate. How's that working out?
Yeah, it's working out well actually. So for those of you that don't know, viewers that don't know, I think it's probably actually second week of April. One of our players has recently departed, Richie Kircher, who's gone back to New Zealand. His girlfriend moved in, Belle. So because actually it was kind of a bit of a happy coincidence that I had a spare room in my flat, and as I say, Richie had to go back to New Zealand. But then also the lease in their flat was running out at the end of April, so they just left kind of a couple of weeks early, and Belle moved in here. So yes, it's been great so far. So it's nice having some human kind of face-to-face contact and things, because I think for a spell the only face-to-face person I spoke to was the little kid upstairs when he dropped his toy car onto the patio. So it's nice to see a human face every morning and speak to someone. So yes, it's going well so far.
Slightly less risky interacting with adults rather than children as well in the back garden. Obviously, you're quite well travelled, so it's probably quite nice having a Kiwi in the flat. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your backstory? So where you're from, your work, your career, family relationships, etc.
Sure. Yeah. So as you kind of alluded to in the intro, I'm one of these kilted Englishmen. So I was born in England, in a place called Welwyn. So that's quite close to, probably the easiest place to say it's close to is Luton. So north of London, and lived there for a while. And then my dad works in oil and gas, so we moved kind of here, there, and everywhere with that, really. So I was from England, went to Alaska for a few years, so lived there for a while. I was in Venezuela for about 18 months, then back to England for a wee while, and then of all the interesting places my parents could have decided to settle, they decided on Aberdeen, of all places. So yeah, I had moved to Aberdeen when I was about probably 11 or 12, and yeah, I was there for high school, and then Glasgow for university. And I think I ended up picking there because Edinburgh didn't want me at Edinburgh Uni, so I went to Glasgow because I didn't get into Edinburgh. And then I would have stayed in Glasgow had I got a job, but again, no one wanted me in Glasgow, and I got a job through here. So here I am in Edinburgh.
Well done. So on to your rugby background then. Can you talk us through maybe where you first started and any previous clubs?
Yeah, so I think I probably came to rugby relatively late, actually. I think for having moved, or later, sorry, than some other people, because moving about quite a lot. Obviously when I was in England, I was too young to be playing rugby, and in the States it's not a big thing. Venezuela, not a big thing. I only first started playing rugby, to be honest, when I moved up to Aberdeen, and I think probably the only reason I played rugby was that the school didn't have a football team. So I played football growing up when I was younger. So I was kind of one of these big bruising centre halves right back, because I was quite tall for my age when I was younger. So believe it or not, now looking at me, but I was quite tall for my age when I was younger. So I played quite a lot of football, and only started playing rugby really when I got to probably senior school, really. So first year. So I guess that's 13. 13, 14. I've been playing since then. So I know some of the boys will know, and I know we've got a few fellow Gordonians in the team. So I went to Robert Gordon's College in Aberdeen, that churns out such stellar professional players as Stuart Grimes and Chris Cussiter and the recently retired Rory Jackson. So I had a good rugby education there, and then like I say, went to Glasgow for uni. Turned up, wanted to play for the uni rugby team, and then it was summarily disbanded after about a term, because some of the older members were being slightly stupid with their extracurriculars and making a bit of an arse themselves. So I actually ended up playing for a club side at uni, so a club called GHK, which was great. So I played there through all of uni. Really enjoyed that. Good group of guys. And as I say, I ended up through here for work, and initially turned up at a club, won't name names, but the other side of the wall from us, played there for a season, and didn't enjoy it in the slightest. And so a friend actually, a friend of Callum Harper's actually, so who went to uni with Callum, he said, I'm a member here, do you want to come down? Strangely, Johnny, the guy that kind of brought me down, I don't think he's actually played a game for Northern, because I think he hurt his knee pretty badly shortly after he kind of turned up. So but then I suppose, well, that's 4 years ago that I came down to Northern, so three and a half, 4 years ago, and then turn up at the bunker, and you'll find me there most Saturdays now.
Very good. And before we shift on to the next question, have you always been a front rower then?
So again, believe it or not, no. So I actually, like I said earlier on, I used to be quite tall for my age. So when I first started, I actually played in the second row. and formed a formidable partnership of Tom Horton and Lewis Morton. So the Horton and Morton second row in first and second year at school. So yeah, I played second row for a while. And actually, believe it or not, in my third year of uni, I went and did a semester abroad in the States. And obviously, you know, States, you know, an up-and-coming rugby powerhouse. If they get themselves sorted, they'll be fantastic. Don't know a huge amount of rugby just now, though, do they? And yeah, I actually played for sevens team when I was over there for the college I was at, and played by virtue of the fact that I played rugby, basically, and I could run around. I played centre for the sevens team, and I played 7 for a 15s team, because obviously all the guys in the front row were, you know, football players, you know, American football players that are these huge guys, and I was obviously minuscule compared to them. So yeah, they chucked me elsewhere. So bit of a roundabout way. And again, the club across the wall when I first turned up, I said front row, and they said no, you're not, and pointed that front row to me and said you're about 50 kilos too light. So okay, good. So yeah, so I was actually playing back row there as well before I moved to Northern.
Fantastic. I mean, if I was told that I was 50 kilograms too light to play my position, I'd take absolute great relish in putting 50 kg on. Yeah, but I'm glad that you retain the fitness of a back rower as you've gone on. So actually, it's a great question by Jason, because we've actually been issued a challenge by someone at Lismore Captain whose jersey you took, and you eventually moved to the front row. So we're honoured that you are going to be the first person to undertake the positional challenge, Tom.
Excellent, thanks very much.
So I'll just run through it for the listeners, obviously, quickly. So you've set it up already. You've got 3 toilet rolls in your bin positioned. Your throwing's not the best of time on a Saturday, so we thought we'd test that out. So we're going to ask you. Yeah, we're going to ask you to do 10 press ups, have 2 fingers over your ear, and then throw a toilet roll into the bin. We're then going to ask you to do 10 sit ups, take 2 fingers again, throw the toilet roll into the bin. And to finish, 10 star jumps. I know your favourite exercise. 2 fingers, again, throw to the bin. And I feel that me and Jason have agreed beforehand that anything less than 3 out of 3 means that you'd have to finish your drink, whatever's left of it. Are you content with that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, may as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. So if you want to, we're just going to pause it now and we're going to get set up so we can start.
Okay.
Excellent, Tom. So you're obviously now in position, ready to go.
Hello. Yeah.
Excellent. So on my marks, carry on. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Better form than you, Michael.
Definitely. This man does press ups more than I do, which is what
Here we go, the hard bit.
Don't forget your beer, Tom.
Oh, there we go.
Looks like you'd be seeing it off anyway.
2 fingers, I know exactly. Harder than it looks, viewers, harder than it looks.
I can agree. Oh, wow, that's the headphones gone. I haven't done sit-ups in months, Jason. I don't know about you, but I'd hate to see myself doing a crunch.
Actually, no. Probably more planking at the minute, yeah.
Beer, of course.
Hey! Fantastic.
And then star jumps.
Yes, please. Solid leg shot, that.
The neighbours downstairs will be wondering.
Thankfully, I'm on the ground floor, actually, so it should be fine.
Yay.
Hey!
Oh. 2 out of 3.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Will I just see this off?
Yes, please.
Will that make it easier for you all?
Yes, thank you very much.
Well done, though.
Well done.
Yep.
Tremendous. So, by virtue of having gone first, Tom, that puts you at the top of the leaderboard on 1 minute and 20 seconds. So,
I think I'll be the one and only time I'm at the top of the leaderboard, I think.
I don't know. We might make someone else do it. Excellent. Thank you very much. I think it's on to you, Jason.
I think we might have touched on it then, but when and how did you learn about the best club ever?
So, yeah, I actually, like I said, I played for a club across the wall. Didn't really enjoy it, and I think there were a couple of reasons for that. I was coming back from a pretty long-term injury, which all of you know about, the precursor to knee aids. Was coming back from that, and yeah, took a bit of time off after playing for that club. But like I say, it was a friend from school, and he actually had gone to university with Callum Harper, and just said, look, if you want to come down, it's a bit more laid back, a bit more fun. And actually, yeah, turn up for training. This friend, his friend never came to training, so I turned up by myself. Didn't know anyone, and just walked into the changing room. And thankfully, I'd seen a picture of Callum, so just went over and said, "Hi, I'm Tom. I'm the guy that's been Facebooking you, Facebook messaging you." And yeah, that was 3.5, 4 years ago. So haven't looked back.
Very good. One of my favourite games playing with Tom would have been a fixture away to Inverleith. Usually I'd put myself 3 out from the ruck to be able to reach the 10 or cover anything inside. But this day, however, Tom just kept getting up, pushing us out, making the tackles himself. So possibly one of the easiest defensive games I've played. So Tom, those 3.5 years then, what would you say is Northern's unique selling point?
I think I know a lot of guys have said it. I think on these Cockerel casts, and I don't think it's a secret that it's Northern's a fantastically social club, and I think that's one of the things that I think is, well, I think it probably is the selling point of the club, in that everyone that's come down and play, they're there to have a bit of fun. They're there to have a run around on a Tuesday, a Thursday, and on a Saturday, and have a bit of fun afterwards. And yeah, kind of just play with your mates. Because I think ultimately, my kind of view on rugby is if you're mates with the people you play with, then you always try a bit harder. If it's your mate to your left and your right, you feel a bit indebted to them. You're kind of, as you say, pushing them out of the way to get to the ruck, pushing them out of the way to get to the tackle. So I think it's that camaraderie that really sells the club, I think.
Very good.
I would actually. I was jokingly shaking my head there. I wouldn't do very much for anyone else. But no, I completely agree. I think that's definitely a field. That's one of the big things that appeals to me about Northern is it's not having played at the high school, which is where you've played with JHK. Similar mindsets. I wouldn't have said it's as much of a togetherness. Can be quite nippy and stuff. So I definitely agree with that. Obviously, 4 years you've mentioned everything 4 and 3.5 years. In that time, do you have any particular kind of standout memories on the field? Maybe a favourite season, a favourite game?
I was actually you guys kind of sent me a list of a couple of questions before, and that was one of them. And I had to think actually, and there were a couple that kind of sprung to mind. And I know other people have mentioned the bowl winning season last year. So there's obviously been several perspectives on that, so I won't waste everyone's time with that. But I think back to there's a couple of games and they're always the kind of the traditional rivalry. So a couple of games against Inverleith. GT mentioned one there. I'm not sure if that game that you're talking about, if that was the one where I just got clocked square in the face by their 7, just unprovoked. He just punched me. And I remember that day the referee saying to me, I think it must have still been Gollum that was captain that stage. My nose is just streaming with blood. Well, more crooked than it is just now, streaming with blood. And Gollum says, me and Gollum says to the referee, look, he's clearly been punched in the face. And then she said to us, yeah, you've quite clearly been punched in the face, but I didn't see you did it. I can't do anything about it. And yeah, their back row had the audacity to try and shake my hand after the game. And then to add insult to injury, Gollum gave me Dick of the Day for having the gall to get punched in the face. But I think another one that kind of springs to mind as well is away against Dalkeith. So obviously I know this season Dalkeith has got the better of us a couple of times, which was disappointing. But I remember a game, it was the beginning of last season actually. And I think there was a bit of noise that they were kind of going to be in the up and they were going to give us a good shoeing, and we then proceeded to put in just a huge defensive performance. And I wouldn't class it as a smash and grab, because the points we did score, we warranted them, but it was built off the back of just great defence. And I just kind of remember, I think it leads back to the camaraderie point, just remember in the changing room, just all of us just having some beers in the changing room afterwards. And for those of you that played at Dalkeith, the changing rooms are immediately side by side. And I remember just their changing room being deathly quiet and ours being just, you were blowing the roof off the place, just because it was such a good win.
No, I mean, I completely agree. In terms of my experiences at Northern, definitely Jason. Jason is also fond of getting punched in the face by opposing players. I should just think memories of him doing it against Dalkeith as well, in front of his father-in-law and his dad, to win us a game. So there's nothing wrong with getting hit in the face, Tom.
No.
So long as you go on to win it, I think
we did that. I think we did that in that Inverness game. I think.
Yeah. No, I do actually remember. Like, I think we won. I want to say 45-0. I think Jake Latham scored a hat trick from memory.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
So it was a good game. Speaking of tries, actually, it moves us on conveniently. Do you have any favourite tries that you scored for the club, or ones that you perhaps remember others scoring?
I think in terms of ones that I score, they're very infrequent. Although at one stage this season, I remember, I think I had. I'll be careful here of bragging, but I think I had 4 tries in 3 games, which was positively prolific for me. And I think so. In terms of my kind of tries, I think actually 2. I scored 2 in one game. Actually, it was after a bit of a comeback from an injury, playing against Leith, and scoring 2 off of driving mauls, which was for me was very satisfying, because as we've alluded to, my darts can sometimes let me down. So those 2 kind of pushovers were obviously as a result of I think there were 2 delightful loop throws to Alan Burns at 4, and then taking the ball and driving it probably 15-20 meters. I think that was really satisfying. Those 2, but as I say, I'm far from prolific, so I think those 2 probably are my only tries I can really speak of that weren't just 1-yard wonders.
At the end of the day, they all count in the record books. So nice.
True, they all count. They all count 5 points.
Michael's certainly keeping tally of his own. So, quickly off the pitch, then, your any memorable Northern nights out that you've been on?
I think I'm not sure if I would describe it, because there are very few memories from it. But I do remember winning. It was the season where Callum Harper somehow contrived to have us relegated, but then also win the kind of the subdivision we were in. And I think it was even more satisfying, because we actually got presented with a trophy at Inverleith. We beat Inverleith to win this kind of half division, and we're presented with the trophy at Inverleith in front of them. So I think just that night in the bunker. This is obviously pre-COVID, but just everyone drinking out of the same kind of trophy, and rosé wine getting decanted into it. With I remember there being, I think it was like Italian spices that were topped into the top of it. So I think that night for me, I think was just great. I think as a club, the first 15 were there, and lots of the seconds guys came down, and I think it was kind of the end of a good season of work there, notwithstanding the kind of the league position. But a big kind of club day there. So I enjoyed that one anyway.
Good. So I think you've played across the front row for us already. If you were to choose then a couple of other players to play in your sort of ideal Northern front row, talk us through a few potentials.
Well, I think as you say, I've played across the whole front row, so I've had a bit of a strange experience with that. I think some people would say a jack of all trades, master of none. I think, but I always enjoy playing with John Leatham. I think because obviously as both of you know, he's got a lot to say, which I always find quite entertaining. And I actually remember the beginning of this season, a game away at Ulster. I think it was the first game of the season. And I remember being pretty short of some lineup options, so we're actually chucking John up in the lineup. So he's got his lifting blocks on, but packing down a loose head. And their tight head in the first scrum, giving him all sorts of chat about, look at the state of you. You're playing front row and you've got lifted blocks on. And I'm not going to try and do John's accent. I'll butcher it. But I
think in the interest of our viewers, you should try and do
it. Right, okay, here we go. I remember he's kind of a youngish guy just looking at him, giving him all this chat. John goes, boy. He's like, boy, I'm going to make you all laugh. Miserable, boy. And just basically proceeded for 80 minutes to stick the guy's head up his arse and just lift him every single scrum, just lift him out the top of the scrum. And needless to say, their tight head was very quiet after that first scrum, I think.
John actually, John, not to interrupt you, Tom, again, sorry, but John actually talked about that in his podcast. He said that you know that you had a good day at the office when they're bringing on their third tight head to face you.
Yeah,
and that was said game. So
yeah, it was excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed playing inside of a hooker that day. I think in terms of other players, I mean, I guess I'm obviously kind of biased in terms of having only been at the club, a few years, so maybe a bit of recency bias. But I always enjoy playing inside Dougie Canlish as well. He's just an absolute rock, in that it kind of leaves me to not, certainly when I'm playing a hooker or at loose head by the same token, leaves me to kind of go and try and attack a wee bit in the set piece, because I know that the tight head's not going anywhere, our tight head and their loose head's not going anywhere. And I suppose in terms of other names, I guess they've been mentioned a few times, I know, but I always enjoyed playing with Jeremy in the odd game he played, Jeremy Dabrowski, the odd game he played at hooker. Obviously a bit more of a lightweight hooker, but yeah, by God, as you get about the park, and makes it a lot easier for the big boys to run around, or not run around, as the case may be.
And what do you prefer? Because I don't actually ask any of the front row who've come on this yet. Do you prefer proper hooker in terms of as a position?
I think probably because of the already much discussed throwing. I think I probably prefer playing prop, but obviously JT's a potential front row now, in terms of his stint at hooker a wee bit last year. But for our viewers and that don't know, they're obviously each, despite the fact that people think front rows are just big oafs that don't really know what they're doing, each of them is different in their particular way and what you're needing to do. Certainly a hooker, obviously you're holding down the scrum a wee bit. Say your role in the scrum is maybe smaller than your props, but your time to shine is the line out. And there's obviously a lot of pressure on there. When you're at tight head, you're the anchor of that scrum. You need to hold it. If the scrum's going back, it's for all intents and purposes your fault, because that's your role as a tight head to keep the scrum there. And as a loose head, obviously you look at your internationals, your professionals. They tend to be kind of slightly smaller guys than the tight heads, but their role is obviously kind of going after, attacking the opposition scrum. So there's different things in each of them, and different kind of pressures. So I enjoy playing all three. I think probably, I guess more of my success, I guess maybe comes at probably hooker and loose head. But yeah, I think I'll chuck me in anywhere. I'll just be happy to play.
Fantastic. So we'll go into the next question, which is who would you say your rugby influences? So that can be your family, pro and international players. I know that some props have props as their influences, others have backs.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you've alluded to it in a few other videos that for props or front rows, there aren't a huge amount of inspiration, and when you're growing up there, it's not the cool sexy position. You don't see front rows on TV and in TV commercials and things. So I wouldn't say I had a huge amount of prop kind of idols growing up. In terms of kind of coaches, I think my coach at school sticks out. So as I say, I kind of came to rugby a wee bit later, and coach at school was a guy called Mr. Dougal. And yeah, by the end of the 6 years at school, we kind of became, my year group and him became really close, to the extent that not so much in recent years, but for a while after school, every year we just kind of go out as a rugby team, guys in our year with Mr. Dougal, and just kind of have a bit of a catch up and things. And I remember one of the things that he kind of said to me, and that I've always kept with me when I've been playing rugby, is that I'm not the fastest on the park. Obviously playing in front row, you're never the fastest anyway. But I've never been the fastest on the park. I always try and be a little bit fitter than my opposition. But I remember him always saying to me, it doesn't have to be your speed of thought, your speed of feet. Sorry, it just needs to be your speed of thought. And if you're the fastest player on the pitch in terms of your thought of knowing where the next ruck's going to be, knowing where the maul is going to be, knowing where to be, then that can be a much better attribute to have necessarily than being fast to feet. So I think I always kind of think about that when I'm playing rugby, of just trying to think about what I'm doing rather than necessarily just kind of blindly flying in. So I'd say probably Mr. Dougal, I think.
Fantastic.
Left field.
Yeah.
So before we round up, we'll rattle through a few listener questions that have come in.
Great.
So
I'd imagine there'll be a few corkers.
Yeah. So firstly, from @outgoing_coach, what would be your preferred nickname for next season? Quadzilla or Rashid?
I would say probably Quadzilla. I think I was given that not actually by Mr. Dougal, but by another coach at school. So at least that was partially complimentary. Whereas I think Rashid probably isn't. I don't think true, but yeah, probably not as complimentary.
I always just, before I found out about your allergy, I always just thought it was the amount that you'd exerted yourself, that you just had sort of blood in your head.
I don't think it's that, like, it hasn't actually been definitively diagnosed. I don't think. I think it's a combination of wearing a scrum cap, so that's just obviously wiping back and forth my forehead, rubbing back and forth whole game, and yeah, probably sticking my head where I shouldn't be sticking it in terms of tackling people. So I think it's a combination of everything. But yeah, certainly, I think it's a bit of undiagnosed allergy to grass, I would say, probably.
It's very convenient that you said that, because the next question comes from @OpenThePubs. What did you do to grass to make it hate you so much?
I think probably just flying into far too many tackles, sticking my head where I should be sticking them. I think that's probably why, as you can probably see in the video, that the nose isn't the straightest, and this 30-year-old face looks a bit worn in, a bit weathered, shall we say. So I think it's probably just flinging my face into the grass a bit too often, I think.
Well done. So the next one from @Anders Christensen. What are your favourite types of ships?
I think this obviously goes back to my famous speech at the club dinner. I would suspect. So I think I'll allude to that. I don't have a particular favourite ship. I think probably of them all, friendships are the best ships, I think.
Very good.
Fantastic. Mine's called Dignity. From Ian RFC President, how many shares
what do you have?
How many? Not his official Twitter handle.
Okay. Yeah.
How many shares do you have in Giacomo?
49%. Sadly, not the controlling stake, but yeah, enough to keep me ticking over anyway. Enough to get me a good discount.
Fantastic.
I hope it's doing okay in the current climate. So next from @Paraguay Soft Hands. Have you ever considered starting a YouTube channel reviewing whiskey?
No, because if I'm honest, I know sweet F all about whiskey. All I know is that I don't like peaty whiskey, and I like the sweet stuff. So to be honest, I should probably be speaking to the two of you. I think, given you're the whiskey connoisseurs of the two of you. I couldn't even tell you what the last bottle I bought was. Couldn't even tell you. I think it was a Tam Novulin, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, whiskey. Former whiskey connoisseur. I don't touch the stuff anymore. For now, anyway.
Of course not. Of course.
So this one, it comes in from Burnsy the Bear. How does Belle take her tea, and what's her favourite type of biscuit?
How do I answer this diplomatically? She takes her tea with a bit of milk if she's having kind of Earl Grey or breakfast tea. But then she's also a fan of some herbal teas. So no milk there. So she has that. And then her biscuit, actually, Belle's actually, she's gluten intolerant, so not really a biscuit fan, actually. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
Is there a gluten-free alternative she goes for? Like a carrot?
She had some ginger snaps the other week, so it would be that probably, I think.
Fantastic.
And lastly, on the listener questions from Best Chokehold at Northern, did you consider legal action when Tim Hortons opened their first Dunfermline cafe?
I did. On the basis of the fact that he's far more successful than I am, and ever will be. So actually, a random fact for you all, for those of you that don't know who Tim Horton is, he's actually an ex-NHL player, Canadian NHL player, who started this chain of coffee shops. They do some excellent donuts, and yeah, it's been leveling me before. Actually, the old IT manager at my previous firm used to call me Tim on the basis she was Canadian and loved Tim Horton. So yeah, actually, I've had that one a few times before, actually.
Excellent. So it's good that you touched on cafes. Then it's one of the things that I'm looking forward to when this all finishes. But what are you looking most forward to doing when life returns to normal?
I think it's cliched. I think it's just being able to congregate in more than 6 people. If I'm honest, I think until you don't have that camaraderie, until you don't have that that contact sort of thing, and seeing your mates, I think you kind of appreciate it a wee bit more. And certainly, I think the opportunity to see people, I suppose it certainly means that my parents won't be asking me to FaceTime them quite as often as they are just now, because it's probably every 2 or 3 days they're asking to FaceTime me. So yeah, probably that. Looking forward to my parents not asking to FaceTime me 2 or 3 times a week.
Quite right. So next time on the Cockerel cast, we'll be finding out how some of the young team are enjoying Northern so far. Join us for that one. But for now, though, I'm Jason Thompson. He's Michael Mawdsley, and thanks to Tom for joining us. Stay safe, and we can't wait to hear your presidential address to declare the pubs for reopening. Cheers.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom.
Cheers.